Alright, this is a battle against Cloudberry of YouTube. He leads with Butterfree as I lead with Flozel. I was assuming his Butterfree was going to be Sass, so I go with the Ice Punch, but when he gets the Sleep Powder off first on me, I obviously figure that it's Scarf. So we both pull a switch right here, and he goes into Torkoal, and I go into my Grumpig. Now, I managed to get a trick off here, so I obtain his leftovers, he gets my Scarf, and he's locked himself into Stealth Rock. Now since he's forced to switch, I figure I'll get a Psychic off on anything he comes into, and he brings in his Leafeon. Now, Psychic does more than half even after leftovers gain, so it'll be an easy 2-hit KO, but he's forced to switch out into Gardevoir right here. Now, Psychic doesn't do a whole lot to it, so I carry Shadow Ball over Signal Beam on this Grumpig, so I decide to go for the Shadow Ball. Hopefully I can get a special defense drop, and it takes it down to about half, but that's with the Psychic damage as it wishes up. So because I didn't get the defense drop, I know I won't KO it the next turn, and I do manage to get it down to about, say, 10% of its health as he gets the Will-O-Wisp on me. Now, Wish comes true for him right here, and he gains up to about 75 to 80% of his health back. So I decided to stay in, knowing I can probably outstall it if I choose to, and this time Shadow Ball gets the defense drop, and he's practically forced to switch after the Wish unless he wants to leave his Gardevoir in. So after the burn damage and his lefties gain, he does decide to switch, and he goes into Butterfree right here, and Shadow Ball does about half damage to it, but because of Wish, it goes back up to full health as I continue to gain a little lefties, but Burn does more damage to me. So, fearing the Bug Buzz, I decide to switch out into Typhlosion right here, and Typhlosion takes quite a bit of Stealth Rock damage as Butterfree decides to U-turn, and so he goes into his Torkoal again right here, and I decide to switch since I know I won't be able to do much to it, and I go into my Gastrodon as it just explodes in my face right here. Now I was really hoping that I would live with more health than what I did, but because I don't have a lot of defense EVs invested in this Gastrodon, this is more special defensive than physically defensive, I only live with about 11 HP. He goes back into Leafeon, and this is where I pretty much lost the match. I stay in thinking he was going to Leaf Blade, and so I go for the recover, but instead he decides to Swords Dance up. Now, this time fearing the Leaf Blade, I decide to stay in, and I go for the Earthquake, but instead he Baton Passes into Swallow right here, and Earthquake being unaffected on it, manages to get it off. Now, he's got the 2x Swords Dance boost, and he's also got the Guts boost from Toxic Orb, so Facade will easily KO my Gastrodon, even if I did have defense EVs invested in this thing. Now I pulled the bluff right here, and I go into Typhlosion hoping he'll think I'm Scarfed. Now, he was kind of scared, I guess, but he decides to go for the U-turn for some reason instead of just switching out, and luckily for me I managed to live with 1 HP, which helps me activate Blaze as he switches into Butterfree right here, and Lava Plume will easily KO Butterfree. This Typhlosion here is Timid Specs, by the way, so he goes into his Soul Rock right here, and I decide to stay in because even if I switch out, the next switch in I'll just pretty much lose Typhlosion. So I see Lava Plume does a little bit more than half, so I figure it might be a 2-hit KO until he Calm Minds and gains a little bit of lefties. So I go for another Lava Plume, and I see it doesn't quite KO, but I get lucky with the Burn Hacks as he gets a useless crit with Grass Knot right here. So I figure anything, as long as I can outspeed it, I can pretty much KO this thing. So I just decide to bring in Grumpig right here and go for the Psychic, hoping, not trying to overpredict with Shadow Ball so he doesn't bring in Swallow in again. So Soul Rock goes down, and again I gain a little bit of lefties, but it's negated by the burn, and this time he goes back into Gardevoir. Now I'm hoping to 1-hit KO it with Shadow Ball, but I don't quite do that as he manages to get a Wish off. And so this turn I don't know if I wanted to Shadow Ball again or go for the Psychic, fearing a switch into Swallow. So because of Swallow's weak defenses, I figure in case he does switch into Swallow, I'll go with the Psychic, and hopefully it's down to low enough health where I can KO Gardevoir. I get a crit, don't know if it really mattered or not, but I managed to knock out the Gardevoir. Now, this time he goes back into Swallow, and I really don't have anything I should say that can outspeed it. He goes for the Facade and manages to KO Grumpig, so I'm hoping maybe I can outstall it. So I go into Flozel right here to try and just stall it out with Poison as he goes for the Facade and just KOs me. And so now I go into Shuckle, I believe, this turn, as it takes more toxic damage. Now I'm pretty sure I'm gonna lose this match as I bring in Shuckle right here, and he goes for the Brave Bird and does about half damage, and then a little more because of Stealth Rock, and I managed to hit it with a Rock Slide, and that'll be enough where Toxic Poison will just finish off the Swallow. Now, this is an unusual Shuckle. I carry Acupuncture for some reason. I thought it'd be fun to use instead of Toxic, so I see Leafeon only does about 40 to 50 hit points of damage, as you see me get off the Acupuncture. Unfortunately for me, I don't get the defense boost, and I get the speed boost instead, which is pretty much useless. He goes for another Leaf Blade, and I barely live it with 1 HP again as I get off the rest to recover my health again. Unfortunately, I don't carry a Cloudberry to wake me up, so I'm pretty much stuck asleep for 2 turns with only Shuckle and my Crawdaunt left, which you haven't seen just yet. I forgot he carried Swords Dance, so this is the time where he takes to Swords Dance up twice as I'm still asleep for the 2nd turn. Now, even after the two times, or 4 times I should say, for Swords Dance, Leaf Blade does about 75% damage as I wake up, and I go for another Acupuncture, hoping for some reason I'll get a defense drop or a boost, but instead I get the special defense raise. So I pretty much lost this match right here as he gets the Leaf Blade off on me and Shuckle goes down. And I go into my last Pokemon, Crawdaunt, and with it being a water type, it's easily gonna KO me even without the Swords Dances. So he goes for the Leaf Blade and he gets a meaningless crit, but regardless, it was a good game. Please don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe.